I'm going to demonstrate the faults with my Dana 5100 and maybe then explain why I think it's the PROM that's messing it up. The inputs are shorted together, so it should be reading 0, but the input buffer is very slightly out of cal, but we'll just ignore that. So I can downrange it, that's fine. Whoops, do you know if you see that it went past the end of the downrange limit? So that shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be possible to go down below the 0.2 scale, but I can. And the same thing going the other way as I uprange. First of all, the meter shouldn't have a 10,000 volt scale, but it does. And I can uprange the decimal point right off the end of the scale there, which is also wrong. One thing I've noticed is that if you keep pushing the buttons up, it will wrap around, which indicates the counter. There's a 4-bit counter, up, down counter, that's where the fourth bit is a reset, so it actually just counts up to 8. It'll loop around, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and back around again, 8 reset. So it shouldn't be able to do that. Of course, the up limit and down limit signals should prevent this from happening, and those signals come out of the ROM. So my guess is that ROM is not outputting those. Also, it's not doing it right now, but sometimes on this scale, the meter displays odd numbers, which I think is possibly because the various relays and other things that are driven by the PROM are not getting to the correct setting. And it's intermittent that it does these things, which again, it could be anything, but the common factor between all these different errors, the one piece that can do all of this is in that ROM, unfortunately.
Let's have a look at the block diagram for the
Right.
range logic in the 5100. And if you look at this, the range logic switches connect to a pair of flip-flops, just regular 7474 flip-flops. And the outputs of those go into some NAND gates. And the output from the NAND gates go into the up-down counter. We know all that's working because the meter will range up and down. The outputs from the up-down counter go into the ROM. And if you look at outputs numbers 7 and 8 from the ROM, those are the up limits and down limits, and those aren't working. So it's either the PROM outputs are bad or the gates are bad. I mean, I'll go ahead and change those triple input NAND gates because I have them, and it's a cheap part, but I don't think that's going to fix anything because it's unlikely that even though they're in the same package, it's unlikely they're both having the same failure.